I recently filmed an interview with two guys from the Siege headquarters. It's a bit of a long one, but if you want to find out stuff that you don't know yet, I'd stick around. In this video, we've got two guys here called David Watley, the CEO, and Chris Skippy Moore, the producer. Hello, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. So we have a few questions from the community, but I'd like to start with a few questions of my own. What made you guys start creating video games?
No questions, please.
There will only be statements from us you must accept.
Right.
Why did I start making? I always made games. Literally, the first memory I have is making games. It was before computer games, though, because my brother, who was a lot older than me, was a board gamer. Like Avalon Hill board games. That's pretty dated
Right.
reference, but he used to crush me at everything. So I guess I started designing my own games in hopes that I would win. And then
Create your own
eventually I got a computer, a TRS-80 Model 1, 4K of RAM. That's all you needed, man. That's all you needed. And then I just been making computer games ever since.
And what about you, Skippy?
I think I started making games by copying games out of magazines, basic programs that they used to publish in magazines.
Back in the day, were you typing the
in.
hex or typing the code?
You typed in the basic code, and then you saved it to a cassette tape.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you had to rewind it and play it back to run the program, to load the program.
Wow.
And then we stepped up and got a Tandy 1000, and
It's not even a thing.
it had a turbo button
Oh.
that made it go 66 hertz.
All hail the Z80.
Right.
Nobody who plays our game is going to understand anything we're talking about.
It's fine.
Why are
I
we-
played King's Quest 1, and then from then on out, I loved everything about games and adventure games and fantasy games. And that was it. That was the end of it.
Okay, so Siege is a pretty specific game to make. You're talking about like really old games and code and stuff like that. Why Siege? Why did you create Siege?
Actually, Siege was the product of an internal process where all of our employees were tasked with coming up with what our next game would be by breaking into small teams and prototyping ideas. And this particular one was based on a favorite of one of our artists who liked the StarCraft 2 tug of war mods, and he created he created a game based on that basic concept of what was happening in the StarCraft 2 mod community, and that created the battle portion of the game that you see. And later on, we adopted a lot of the principles of the metagame obviously from Clash Royale's metagame, since we already had a battle that featured 2 towers and a castle, plus the troops and the cards and all that stuff was done before Clash Royale was even something we were aware was a thing and hadn't been released yet. And then their meta fit really nicely with what we were doing, so we thought we would borrow a lot of those principles. And since that time, we've adopted pieces of what they do and added some things that they haven't done. For instance, the crafting, I think, is unique to us at this point. Though we did run into this weird thing, a phenomenon actually, where every time we would start to do something and design it or even implement it but haven't released it yet, they would come out with the exact thing that we were about to do.
You might have
or conversely, they would have already done it and had gotten rid of it as we released it. But
Clan chest.
yeah, clan chest.
Yeah, they're a very Simpsons did it moments. Simpsons did it first moments for us. Every time they release a news item about a new feature coming up.
It's something we
It's something
usually
we've
have
talked. It's something we've talked about and is on our list. And
which is why we were happy when we got the crafting in,
Yeah.
and they have not done that or even talked about that as far as I know.
That's right.
It was definitely something that the community brought up, where they had a lot of cards that they hadn't used and they wanted to do something with them. I think the first thing they thought of was give us a place to sell them. So what made you think of crafting?
There actually crafting is also from a player suggestion. Actually, I can't remember who at this point because it was a long time ago, but someone did mention the idea of crafting, and it kind of stuck around. And then eventually, when we were looking at why, what to do about this problem that a lot of people tend to kind of narrowly focus on the cards they play with all the time, and then there's this problem that every time you open a chest, you only sometimes get the cards that you are therefore interested in. So what value is all the other ones? So we decided that crafting solved a lot of issues in that regard, because now if you get a chest, however you get it, if you get it from the shop or you get it from normal play or challenge or whatever, every card now has value to you because you can break it down into dust and use it towards what you are interested in getting.
We didn't want anyone to ever have the feeling that they just won something and it was completely useless.
Yeah.
We hate that feeling ourselves, and we wanted to avoid it.
Yeah, the term "I always get stuff I don't need" is definitely one that I say a lot. So this was a great addition. I think this update was definitely my favourite update so far, especially because of this crafting thing.
We are now working on the next big update, which will come out on the 23rd if all goes well, which is the season reset. And I say if all goes well because you always got to have a little wiggle room if when you're trying to move a lot of stuff through QA. That update will have mostly balance changes and some new content that will be rolling out in the usual way.
Okay.
Some new cards.
We're also always at the mercy of Apple review, and because our our game is a server-driven game, we can't. The game just won't work if people run older clients. So we have to do these synchronized updates where everybody gets offline and everything goes down, and we roll it out to our servers, and then the new clients connect to it.
So the mana cannon was something that came out in the most recent update, and a lot of people were asking for a response to the Titan Horse strategy. And although you did kind of reduce the amount of damage that a Titan can do to a tower and up the damage that a tower can do to a Titan, I think that the mana cannon was probably my favourite answer to a Titan, because if left unchecked it can just charge and take out a Titan quite quickly.
Yeah, if you leave it, you let it power up all the way. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say that the mana cannon was like a direct response to the Titans, or was that just accidental?
Well, there's a lot of factors that go into that stuff, including the fact that we're rounding out the options in the siege category. Yeah. So siege units needed another option, and so they're good at sieging towers as well, right? So we tend to kind of group those with going after Titans usually, but not always. So that I don't think that it was specifically targeted at that, but it's like there's a million threads to the thing, and we basically coalesce down on stuff, and that's just from a game design principle standpoint. But there's also a production side to this where we have to figure out how much effort it takes to do something, to balance something, and QA something, and get it out in the time that we have, especially since we introduce our content through the prestige tiers, right? So any new content will first appear at the top prestige tier and move down once every season reset, until finally it then goes through the normal content, the final content release step, where it shows up in a challenge to introduce the card and let people play with it, and then ultimately it's generally available. And so we got to make sure that we have enough content to keep that pipeline full, and so that's always a concern. Right now the mana cannon is the last thing we have, I believe, on that cycle. And so we need to have more content to cycle through for the next. So we have the next update will have 2 new cards, so that gives us 2 more months of content releases.
Okay, can you give us an idea of what those 2 cards will be?
Let's see. Did we decide on any? Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah, we did. I know what they are.
Yeah, we do. We know what they are.
Yeah. Next question.
You want us to spoil the surprise?
Maybe like one of them. Come on.
David won't spoil any surprises. He's got a real stone face. That was your
Right,
hit.
okay. So with the introduction of crafting, people are wondering whether the card shop is usable anymore. Are we
Yeah.
going to make any changes to how that works?
Not with that update, but the subsequent one, we plan on introducing a new card shop entirely. And that new card shop will feature 6 options, which may be cards, mostly cards, and you buy them in just a simple purchase rather than going through that whole progressive thing that we have now. It'll cycle through all the cards over a period of time, so no matter what, everything will eventually go through there, depending on how many cards there are and what tier you're at. But at the highest tier, you'll see every card in 2 or 3 months or something like that cycle through there.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, you can also unlock it that way. Tell me if I get anything wrong on this.
Right.
So far, you're correct.
Yeah.
And it won't, the shop won't be redesigned to then replace crafting. We want all these things to work side by side with each other and just offer you different value propositions.
Right.
Yeah.
And
To
so,
acquire cards.
so the designers are doing all the math to make sure that the purchasing of cards makes sense in the context of where we are today, which includes, of course, the crafting. Because, the thing about, you have to look at the fact that in order to craft something, right, you have to destroy something, and you're not getting full dust value for having done that, right?
It is a net loss on resources, but you're getting what you want.
Right.
Right.
So it'll be balanced to be appropriate for a way of getting the precise card you want. Versus if you have a ton of dust and your only limiting factor is gold, it needs to be balanced so that if the card's in the shop, it still works out mathematically that that's a good way of getting those cards.
Right.
And so that's what they're working on now.
Yeah, the balance of gold for cards in a shop and gold plus dust for cards and crafting should be about even.
So I recently unlocked the Valkyrie, but I tend to see that it doesn't seem to hold up as well as I thought it would do, especially as a 3-cost heroic warrior. Is there any plans in place to make her more heroic?
Yeah, I think, one of the heroic things that was a big key factor for her was that she was sometimes an airborne unit and sometimes a ground unit. And airborne units are just a little, is definitely unique among all the cards we have.
The Warriors.
The Warriors, right. We have a Titan that does
Yeah.
that. But, what was I going to say?
I don't know.
I was gonna
I'll
say
confess
better.
I'm not up on the Valkyrie.
Yeah,
But
it's
one of
been
the
a
things
while since-
about the way we introduce cards is that while they're going through the prestige tiers is where we, a select few people, because there are a lot less people in especially the high prestige tiers, get to test these things, and that's where we get our first feedback. So we expect to be tweaking things before it gets to general availability.
Right. Okay.
And this might be one of those. I just don't personally know what the status of that one is.
Yeah, from our perspective, it's been quite a long time since we put the finishing polish on Valkyrie and put it out there. So it's just now getting it up to a point where enough people are playing it, so we can look at data and see what we need to tweak on it.
Yeah, there are the next update on the 23rd will have balance changes. We do balance changes almost every update, and sometimes mid-update. And we're looking at a bunch of different cards there that, I don't know what the final list is going to be, so you can't hold me to any of this, but we're looking at, first, a problem with with the tentacle,
Right.
especially when the tentacle is used merely to attack the other guy's castle, and it's not behaving the way that we intended there, because it fixates on just on the castle non-stop for its entire existence, which is not how it's supposed to be. More random than that.
Yeah.
And so that's causing it to do more damage than was intended in that scenario. When dropped into a large group of people, this change will have no impact because it's flopping around randomly anyway, seemingly, so
Yeah.
it should be exactly the same, and that's more what we intend.
You've recently brought out, well, I saw yesterday a 1 mana warrior challenge.
It's still going on,
That
isn't
was
it?
fun.
Is it over yet?
Yeah, I think it's still. I think
I think it's on until this evening.
play, and I could get my champion chest quite high, quite quickly.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I love that challenge, and I've got 1 loss left, so I can get at least 1 more game of it in before the challenge ends. So I'm going to do that. I'm at 4 wins and 2 losses now.
There's something so satisfying about putting forth a wave of 600 snipers that just can melt anything. They're so weak in any other circumstance, but this one cost by themselves. I mean, but in this one cost warrior, they can get things before they get close and push them back. You know. before
Yeah.
they
And
run
then they
away.
can get wiped out in a single spell too.
Yeah,
so.
a single spell can wipe them all out. It's fun because you're not seeing the usual strategies when you play these kinds of challenges, and it's a surprise what the other guy's going to do. You never.
Well, you know that we've been doing 1 challenge a week. Usually, I think it's
A special challenge, right?
Friday, a special challenge, the Friday through Sunday type deal, UTC time, which is perfect for you.
Yeah.
And then every once when we go to release a new card, that challenge will also be built around that particular card. We are now moving to doing that, but also doing challenges on other days on the week as well. And they could be much shorter challenges. Like this is a great example. So this one's essentially about 2 days, and it doesn't take 12 wins to max it out. I think it's 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's a much shorter cycle, and we're gonna we'll be repeating a lot of the challenges that we've done in the past because we're gonna do a lot more of them. So some of your favorites will show up again and again and again, and then with update. Is it the next update or the one after it? I can't remember. On the 23rd, there are 7 new challenges, chipes,
Wow.
coming out.
Jeez.
I am told. You look surprised
Oh,
to
it's
hear
I
that.
am surprised to hear that.
Well, that's what the designer said.
Oh.
They said they
Okay.
had 7 new challenges.
Oh, these are just new types that they can actually accomplish without an update.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are just in the
Yeah.
pipeline coming
Yeah,
out.
you're being
Right.
a nerd. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
to the player, it's new challenge stuff. Sorry.
They are new.
You're being a programmer.
You
nerd.
scared me for a second.
It's not new code.
Right.
It's what they can already do by changing rule sets, right? So,
Correct.
I don't know what they all are, but that'll be interesting to see.
Oh, damn it.
They're always coming up with stuff, and I've come up with some myself, which hopefully will eventually make it out there. The one I came up with today was terrible deck idea challenge, which will pick a random deck for you, but they're all terrible.
All right. Like healers, mortar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you come up with any, let me know. We'll put it in there.
Yeah, I will. I will.
Portal Wisp
The-
healer combo. Get them right up to the front.
Yes. Oh yeah. Heal the enemy tower.
I was also thinking of the converse of that, where we do a challenge that's based on last season's, top 4 or 5 decks
Yeah.
by winning, and making that the decks you play with. That'd be kind of fun to see how that works out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Because then you actually get to see what the top guys are using.
Yeah.
Right. And not only that, you get to use cards that you may not have unlocked already, and get to see what it's
Yeah.
like to level those cards up, and at least to tournament standard, and play those.
Have we ever done a heroic deck challenge?
I don't know that we had enough heroics.
I mean, it wouldn't be
Till
all
recently?
heroics, but
Right,
it would
right.
it would use all the heroics and then fill in with other cards that would be randomized through a few different deck possibilities.
Yeah, we've done a hero challenge, but that's more of the one strong unit challenge that we have.
Anyway, there's lots of ideas. If you come up with any, let me know. We're always looking for interesting ideas on that front. If you hear anyone. So how did you get into playing this game? You were just minding your own business one day, and then your son found it, right?
Yes. Yes, my son downloads like 3 or 4 games a week, and if any of them stick for longer than a week, then you know he's enjoying it. So there was Siege came along, and we would play together, and then I just thought I need to pick this up myself. And then, like any game that he finds that I download, he then drops it after a week because I'm playing it and I'm further along than he is. Typical boy attitude is that your dad can't be better than you at this game because he's old.
Also, it's not cool anymore when your dad's playing.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I picked it up. I was always into fantasy medieval games, and I was playing Clash Royale at the time, and I thought that this kind of fit better in what I liked. I like Clash Royale. I don't play it anymore though. I've seen that Clash Royale is more like an arcade version of what Siege is, and I think Siege is it's like a very niche targeted market in that it is a medieval / fantasy kind of game, but it does have a lot of things that are different to other games like you've already mentioned, and it's just something that I enjoy playing and still do.
Yeah, we're not afraid to really go after a niche. It really helps focus the identity of the product a little bit, and you know, and also find people who like that sort of game can really get into it. It's kind of a trend in mobile games to make everything cartoony and whatever, and there's a solid business reason for doing that because it broadens your potential market and so forth. But you're also competing with more directly with you know, like Supercell and whatever, that they have way more marketing firepower than anyone like us could ever conceive of. So it doesn't behoove us to do that. Also, I just like this kind of look better than the cartoony stuff, but that's, you know, it's all subjective, right? I mean, those guys are the masters of user interfaces. I will give them that. But it's really interesting when you make a game like this. You think you spend all your time building the game part, you know, the fun things battling on the screen, but that's just a tiny fraction of the effort that goes into making these games. It's actually everything else that takes all the time, and the metagame is probably a good, you know, 75% of the effort, maybe more. It takes forever to make UIs that work well or even passable. And then as you add more and more features, they kind of conflict with each other, certainly when it comes to like screen space and things like that. So we have to do a lot of moving things around and trying different stuff, and then a lot of times, you know, what you try doesn't work so well.
And then you get it all perfect, and you put in the localized terms, and you realize it looks like crap in 3 other languages that you didn't think about.
Yeah.
And then you have to tweak everything again.
Yeah, it is a pain in the ass. And when it comes to like coming up with new units or new spells or even new gameplay mechanics, that's actually the easy part.
That's the fun part.
And has almost no localization other than the text of the card.
The description, right?
Yeah,
and
so
some of the stats, maybe. But
exactly. We are working on some new gameplay mechanics, something completely different. That'll be layered on top of what we have. We always keep adding to the core game at this point. That's our philosophy, is to keep focused on that. I bring this up because there's a distinction between what Clash Royale has done, where they have like variations on the theme that are completely different, like the football version of Clash. I'm not saying that's a bad idea. That is, but for Siege, what we want to do is we want to just keep focusing on what the core gameplay is, and adding layers of interesting things that you can do more and more while still maintaining that accessibility that it has.
So you touched there. I know you're not one to give things away, but you said you were working on something just a second ago.
Well, we're always working on something. When every single day we come into work and we're just siege all day long, and we have about a 1 month to 2 month cycle on a bundled set of features and improvements, which we call an update, right? And so right now you are playing what we just released, the update, the one that wasn't required update. It's an optional update.
Yeah.
And we're still knee deep in 2 major features, or 3 major features for the subsequent update that'll come later.
Correct.
And then the update that you haven't seen yet, that comes out on the 23rd, and that's currently going through the QA process. So we got multiple layers of stuff all happening at the same time.
I'll point out that is our 12th major update since we've launched the game, which means we're going at a pace of
About one a month.
about
A little faster,
month.
actually.
Yeah, a little faster. Our anniversary is actually
July 5th. Yeah,
That's
we
when
launched on July 5th.
Globally launched.
July 5th is my birthday. Whoop, whoop.
Happy
Check that out.
No lie. No lie.
What does it mean? Yeah, so we're working on stuff where we're going to add some more meta that allows for advancement through other means, separate tracks of advancement that are independent of your cards, but have an impact inside the game. And that'll be a lot of fun. There'll also be clan aspects to that to add even more to what the clan can do and work towards. And you know, in the farther, more distant future, we do want to eventually get to clan wars. We always have, and we were actually starting to focus on that a little while ago. And then, you know, our buddies over at Clash Royale came out with their clan wars. And in fact, I think they did it the day after we finally settled that that's what we're going to do.
They absolutely did.
Yeah.
They said, next update, let's just do clan wars. Here's our plan. Here's our rough plan. And then the next day there was a news item that said clan wars are coming in Clash Royale.
Yeah. And so we threw up our hands and ran around and shattered anything that was breakable. Flipped over a few tables, and then once we calmed down, we decided what we would do is we just observe what they did with their clan wars and see how, because it's very different than what we were going to do. But I want to, you know, see what there is to that. And their clan wars are such that, you know, the early reaction to it was, you know, mixed at best. But I think that's only because it was so new. People didn't know what to make of it. And I think as time goes on, people are starting to understand why they did it the way they did, and the certain amount of genius that went into that particular design. They even understand maybe why they got rid of clan chests in favor of this thing. But we're waiting to see, you know, what the ultimate reaction is, because usually, you know, Clash Royale will put something out there, and then after they see it for a while, they'll change it as well, or even get rid of it. So we're going to wait and see on that a little bit. So we pushed off our clan wars just a little while in order to benefit from seeing what happens over there, since our metas are so similar.
Yeah. If they're going to steal our features, we'll use them to get the benefit of
That
their lessons learned there.
I don't think they're stealing our features.
No,
they don't even know we exist.
They don't.
No.
There's a mole in
Nor
your
would they
office.
care if they knew.
No.
But we're also but yeah, we are working on some stuff that has no precedent in the Clash Royale genre of games that I'm aware of, and you know, that's going to be the following update where you'll see some of that. And really, it's going to change up both the meta and the day-to-day gameplay quite a bit, and add a lot more interest to it. I've got a lot of the ideas come from the challenges, because of how interesting challenges are relative to the daily grind, perhaps, of playing the exact same game with the exact same deck over and over again. I figure that, you know, we can, as game designers, we can come up with some ideas that will add a lot more variety into what's going on, and help also spread out the meta some. I mean, overall, we're doing really good. I mean, we have very tight tracking on the usage of cards, right? And so we can see at any moment in time, and track over time, how popular cards are, how successful they are, the success of combinations of cards or particular deck compositions are relative to all the others. Like, we know, for instance, what is the most successful deck. and the second most successful deck. But on the reality of Siege is that skill is more important than your cards, but part of skill is picking the cards that go with there. So it's kind of mixed, right? But the actual gameplay and using the cards correctly is as much as which cards you use, which is why you can't just go copy the top guy's deck and suddenly be a badass. You got to know how to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, I must admit I've done that a few times.
Yeah, everyone does that,
I've watched-
thinking it's going to make a big
watched a
difference. Who
couple
was
of-
that guy that was in our clan that was... He was saying, the thing I hate about Siege is that there's always a counter to everything I do. And I was thinking, well, what if there wasn't? Then that means everyone would do that thing.
Then you would be Superman.
And there would be no game at all. Yeah.
Then it would be his game.
Did you
And
see
then
that guy?
Nobody else
That was
win.
funny.
So I'm assuming you both play Siege. I know I see you, David. Obviously,
You
you're
know
in
how
our
much I
clan,
play
see you all the
Siege.
time.
You got the statistics, right?
Yeah. What are your decks? Because you said that you can see what the most successful deck is, but as honourable game people yourselves, you're not obviously just going to choose that and then just learn it.
No.
What do you guys use?
I'm a Siege Brute guy myself, so I build on my main play deck. I focus around a Siege Brute and supporting units and spells to let him do his job. Right? So I'm going to be about Siege Brute and haste and heal so that I can get him out and keep him out and do as much possible damage as possible. Right? And then on my unit side, I use Swordsman. The very first card we ever implemented, still at high levels. Yeah, stop laughing. Swordsmen are still good. I don't care what you say. I use werewolves to defend against the people who try to Titan rush me.
Mm-hmm.
And that does a pretty good job, especially if they're well supported. And I like Bombard. I don't have Gyrocopter up to a high enough level to use it yet, so I'm using Bombard for my Siege unit. And I also, I've switched this around a few times, but I've also been rocking Mana Storm. Mana Storm, used properly, is a nice game changer. It's difficult, and you probably only have a really excellent use of it once every 3 games, in my case anyway. But there are times where you can get in a situation where the guy's building up such a massive push that it behooves you just to back off and let him do it, knowing that you've got a Mana Storm ready, right? And then you just ruin his day. Used properly, it's just amazing. What do you do?
I do play the game, but less frequently. More often than not, I have a dev version of the game on my phone, so I'm usually testing the next update or confirming bug fixes and things like that. But when I do need a good deck, I go straight to the designers, and I force them to tell me what the best deck is.
You really do that?
Oh, yes. And then they tell me, and it's so good that I have no idea how to play it.
Right, it
Because they're
doesn't fix anything, does it?
No, they're much better than I am.
But I've seen a lot of stuff at the high level play. There's some people that use some serious crowd control decks, and it takes a lot of skill to do that. But if you can, those are devastating.
Right, yeah, if anything, I'm going with lower skilled decks because I'm not that skilled. So there are things that I know I want to try to do, but then when I get into a game, I can never pull it off. You know, I want to use the Banshees to keep the warriors off of my trebuchet or whatever it is, and I just can't ever. I'm always reacting. I can't ever get into that.
You're not in control of the fight.
I'm never in control of the fight. Yeah.
I use the Banshees in my deck, and I think they are very unique because they, even though they're being shot at, they always seem to be able to scream whatever out the way. To leave the rest of your troops to advance. If they've got snipers, then they can take them out, but then you could just use ninjutsu or a fireball on them. But yeah, having even just one set of Banshees just roaming in the middle of your troops is so useful.
Yeah, they can help a bit until the Titans just step on them. So, you know, it's all a balance. You got to have that right combination out there to do the right thing in the right positions. And
Oh, yeah.
That's where all the skill comes in.
I'm basically, I have finally made it past tier 9 into the first prestige tier, and then got kicked out of it instantly. I locked in the chest though, so I'll still get that. But I'm right about that skill level where I'm starting to get close to a 50-50, where about half the people are kicking my ass, maybe a little more. It's all skill at that point. I'm just not as good as they are, in both in terms of their strategy and their tactics. They just understand it at some deeper fundamental level. And I go back and I do the replays and watch it, and we'll watch it from their perspective, and it's like, wow, it's just so precisely done sometimes that it's amazing to watch.
Right.
And then if they beat me enough times, then we ban them, and then it's not a problem anymore.
All right, yeah.
So if you're ever up against me, you just want to throw the game. All right. Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing some info that we wouldn't have necessarily known.
All right. I'll see you in the clan.
All right. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.
So if you watched that to the end, I hope you picked up on all of the different things that David and Chris mentioned. I did try to add some lower thirds just so I could keep up to date with what they were saying. But there are a lot of things in there that we didn't necessarily know that now we do. If you like that video, smash that like button, and I will see you in another video another time. See ya.